to laugh at safety. Now they call me Three Finger Joe.
Good morning. This is Rick Gleason and Don King on the West Coast, coming to you from the heartbeat of worker health and safety on the campuses at the University of Washington. And today we have some special guests for the Region 10 OSHA Training Center for our podcast today. While Dawn and I have been coming to you from the West Coast, we have two people from the East Coast that have been responsible for improving safety and health for 30 plus, probably more like 40 plus years. I remember way back when I started for OSHA as an inspector in 1978, hearing some of these folks out there. And the first person I just want to mention is on our podcast today is Charlie Morecraft. And I remember watching Charlie's video from his accident in 1980 that he spoke of later after the accident. And so it's with great pleasure that we have Charlie here. And then, Don, can you help us out? Who is our other person today?
That would be Dr. Scott Geller, who is a distinguished professor alumni out of Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, where he has conducted research and taught for 48 years. Wow. So it's great to have him on board, and he has been speaking to the ASSE conferences since 1987. So he's written several books, and his latest book, which I have the good fortune of having a signed copy in my own hands, which I have read already, which is a great read, by the way, Scott, that he has co-authored with his daughter, Dr. Krista Geller, which has to be a great thing to happen when a father can write a book with his daughter. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Charlie and to Scott, and say to them, gentlemen, why did you get out of bed in the morning?
Usually Scott told me to lead off, so I will. By the way, I just want to mention I also have a book out. I only have one. Scott has about 10 of them out. Anyway, one of the things you did when you mentioned me, introduced me, you mentioned that about my accident. And that's one thing that Scott, I know, does not like the word accident. And I've used it countless times over the years, and Scott has corrected me countless times over the years. And I've come to decide Scott's right. That's right.
Yeah! Why am I right, Charlie? Why am I right?
I always known you were right, Scott, but I didn't know the right words to use. But, yeah, it wasn't an accident. It was an inevitable outcome of the shortcuts that I took. You know, if I hadn't taken so many shortcuts that night, my incident, I'll call it an incident. How's that, Scott?
Perfect.
My incident would not have occurred.
I'd call it an injury.
My injury would not have occurred. That's good, Scott. My injury would not have occurred. I've always wondered how to call it. The other thing is, people are always talking to me about being an accident victim. And that's another one I've come to decide is not correct. I wasn't a victim either. You know, a victim is somebody, like Scott has mentioned, somebody who gets cancer. That's a cancer victim. There are no accident victims, you know, per se. An accident is something that happens because of a lack of paying attention most of the time, as far as I'm concerned. It's people who've done the job 1,000 times before and think they're going to get away with it, taking the same shortcuts. That's exactly what I did the night of my, what'd you say, call it, Scott? Injury. The night of my injury. The night of my injury. I had done the job that I was doing that night 1,000 times before, never had a problem. That night, all of those shortcuts that I took came together. And there was a resulting fire and explosion, and I was caught in it. And a lot of it had to do with my shortcuts. with my shortcuts.
But Charlie, we need to understand what W. Edward Deming taught us years ago. Don't blame people for problems caused by the system. So yeah, human behavior was a factor, but it wasn't the only factor, right? I mean, if you
No, it wasn't the only factor. There was a system failure also, Scott.
There you go.
Yeah, there was a system failure also. But my point is, with me, I'm always saying there are always system failures. We don't work in a perfect world. You know, like I've traveled all over the world, and I can walk into any company on this planet, and if I spend enough time there, I'll find something unsafe. That's just the way it is. We're not perfect. So I agree with you, Scott, but I also think that's why we have to take care of one another, and we have to take responsibility, because this is not a perfect world, and it's never going to be.
And that's exactly why we call it an actively caring for people movement. I mean, what Charlie just said is exactly what we need. We need to look out for each other. And let me just say something about what Charlie does for people. Charlie talks about his injury in such a way that it gets people feeling emotional. They feel emotional about the need to prevent injuries before they happen. And that is a key part of feeling empowered. Our challenge is for people to feel empowered to look out for each other with regard to safety. So let me just quickly explain empowerment. Charlie, when we've talked together, we've talked 10 consecutive years at the National Safety Council. We had, in fact, we got an award last year for reaching over 100,000 people with our message. And Charlie goes first, and he convinces us to be emotional about this and to answer this question: is it worth it? Is what we do for safety worth it? And then he says, hey, that's the why. That's why. Now Scott's going to talk about the how. The how. What do we do? And so there's two other questions. That question is how can I do it? You know, can I do it? And then will it work? So there's three questions we need to get a yes answer from people if we want them to feel empowered and self-motivated for safety. First one, Charlie answers for us, is it worth it? But also, can I do it? Can I do what you're asking me to do to keep each other safe? And of course, with good training, it's a yes. And the third question is, will it work? And that might take education. That might take data. Will it work? What you tell me to do, what I've been trained to do. But again, the motivational question was what Charlie gives us the yes answer to. It is worth it.
You know, people often ask me what my what my injury cost the company. And that's actually the wrong question, because they're asking about a financial cost. And although it was over $1 million, that's minuscule. What an accident costs? It costs everything you have. Everything. It costs your family. You lose that. You lose everything you've ever had before. And it's gone in an instant. And as I say, for what? The price is just too high to pay. It's as simple as that.
And when audiences hear Charlie say that, especially professionals in the safety world, they're sitting on the edge of their seats, and I look around and they're teary-eyed, realizing that the disaster that this one day caused Charlie in his life, and they don't want that to happen to anyone else, and thus we've now convinced them to be motivated to actively care for people. Excellent. Yes, and I think the part that is really powerful with the two of you is that this idea of this behavioral movement, obviously, as Scott has well defined in his book, has gotten off of the mark on what it really is and what it really means. And I like the fact that with Charlie and with Scott both, they're straight talkers. They're about truth and real real life, which is not always what happens out there in our world.
Wow. Sure. And what's happened with behavior-based safety is people treat it as a numbers game. And they do the observations, all right, and they got a checklist, all right, but they forget the real human part is not the numbers, but it's that one-to-one conversation between somebody who was observing and somebody who was observed. And they have to be humanistic and non-directive about that conversation, as we explain in our book. But that's really the deal. And that's, again, what Charlie brings. Charlie brings the human element. In fact, sometimes our presentations is called the human side of safety.
Yes, yeah, perfect. Well, I had the good fortune of working with a company who wanted to do injury-free environment, and they allowed me to use Charlie's video, the 54-minute one. So I taught classes for 4 years, so I feel very, very good about every time I talk about Charlie and I show it, I say, and for what? And for what? So he drove that home so well, and everybody's like, you're right, you're right.
It's not, by the way, it's not for what, it's for what. F-E-R. I'm from Jersey, you know? It's for what.
You're right. You got it right. It's for
So anyway, Scott's 100% correct. You know, it's funny, Scott and I met for the first time when we were asked to do a presentation. Remember that, Scott? And we had never, ever met before or talked about. We knew we were going to speak together, but we never talked about what we were going to do.
Yeah.
We met in the lobby of this hall, and we immediately got in an argument, immediately, because we came about, I thought, two different ways. And I came to realize after working with Scott that we were both wanted the same thing. We wanted people to go home to their families every single day. And what Scott and I were differing on were just semantics, were words. Scott comes from an ivory tower, let's put it that way. He's a very down-to-earth gentleman. But Scott comes from academia, and I come from the field. You know, I worked on the docks a good piece of my life. And it's just a different way of speaking. But we all care about people going home to their families. My home is safety. As they reflect that, when we started out, I started behavior-based safety in 1979. And then I realized that people were misinterpreting it because they were thinking that it's only behavior. It's not about feelings and attitude. So then we changed the term, and I actually wrote 2 books on people-based safety. But today, I've kind of been influenced by Charlie. Using language that people can really connect to, it's actively caring. And the academic term is always an academic term, is humanistic behaviorism. But it's actively caring. It's not enough to care. We have to act on that caring. And indeed, that's kind of bringing the language. Charlie would always get to me when he would tease me for using the word self-efficacy. Remember that, Charlie? What does that mean? And I would say, it's believing you can do it, but it's an academic term. And so he's the one that said, hey, you have to put this in language that the real people can understand. And that indeed inspired me to say actively caring. That one came about. We were on the stage actually I think we were on the stage actually for this one. And Scott was talking about self-efficacy. And I had just come from General Motors, and I was speaking to the auto workers. And after I got finished speaking, at one point I showed them my scars. When I got finished speaking, this guy came up to me from Detroit, and he whipped open his shirt, and he said, "You got some scars? Look at these." And he actually had bullet holes. He got caught in a drive-by. I said to Scott, "I want to see you talk to him about self-efficacy." And like Charlie said, it's the doc speaking with the doc worker, and we got to come together. I mean, that's I'll just say, as I end my career, I mean, I've been at this a long time. This is my 49th year teaching at Virginia Tech. And here's my frustration. And Charlie kind of said it in his way. Here's my frustration. We've got research. We know how to influence behavior and attitude in the right way. But we're not reaching the real people. I've written 40 books, but they're not out there. They're not getting to people. And so we have this challenge of reaching people with science, with behavioral science in this case, or psychological science. But I'm frustrated, and I'm about to end my career, and I have to say to myself that I really get it out there. So without opportunities like this, without the media helping us out, we're not going to make the difference that we could make.
No. And thank you, Scott, for bringing that up, because what I'm going to tell you is both of you, as far as I'm concerned, are just getting warmed up. Because you can see, and I mean this in the best sense, I've been doing this for 42 years, and I'm getting so fired up now about this new way that we have to go about this, that I'm thinking, well, I got to figure out how I can explain to my wife that I'm going to go out and do some more stuff. But this being said, it's really, really powerful, and I think the word we need to come up with is people have to self-empower themselves. Not someone else can't power you up. You have to self-empower yourself.
You have to have a reason why. You have to have a reason to power yourself up.
Exactly.
And I found, for me, the only reason to get through to people, because people out in the field, they don't care about comp cost. They don't care about statistics. They don't care about these graphs. What they do care about is their families. And if you're going to get through to them, you got to open it up with what happens to a family. Then, and only then, can you present them with the statistics and the facts. But you have to start with the family, because that's what it's all about. It's personal. Safety is very, very, very personal. And Scott, I think you've had an incredible impact on people over the years. I think as they gave us the award last year, that was 100,000 people just there. And you and I have done this all over the place, all over the world. And I think you've impacted people all over the world.
Well, so have you, Charlie, man. So have you. And, you know, when you say the word I learned from B.F. Skinner, selection by consequences. So we do what we do for the consequences we expect to get. So when Charlie brings in the word family, when he talks to us about the consequences of his injury, that's motivational. And so we can be reactive or we can be proactive. I maintain that our challenge is to get people to do some of this stuff we need to do, stick together proactively. That's not so easy. We can think about our families, but we still have soon certain positive consequences like the break. I get to the break room earlier. Like Charlie was off to a vacation. He was thinking of something else, and that's what put him into an awkward spot. So there are still challenges that we need to get people thinking proactively.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing I was thinking about, and having the two of you here on our podcast, we can't say enough about how we appreciate it and how it energizes us to move forward and do more things out in the community. But the thing that I'm concerned with is the little guy who has a backhoe and two workers, and he's out there in a 20-foot trench without any shoring. Those are the people that we're missing that we've got to get to.
Yeah. I've actually stopped on the road and asked them, where's your foreman? And called them over and told them, either you take care of that trench, you shore it up, or I'm going to have OSHA here. Yeah. But we need people to do that. We need people who know what needs to be done and are willing to stop something that's unsafe and step up to the plate. We need the guy working next to us to be willing to talk to the guy. I'm not saying criticize him, but just say, hey, Jim, and this is what actively caring is. Just say, hey, Jim, I'm concerned about your eyes. I'd love to see you go home tonight and actually see your kids. How about putting your glasses? It's tough to argue with. We're always afraid to say that. And I don't understand. Today I don't understand it. Because it's just about the families. It's just about the families.
And starting that conversation, as Charlie just did, is so important. It's not about do this, do that. It's about, hey, can I actively care for your safety? Who could say no to that? We call that the foot in the door. If I get my foot in the door, if they say yes to that, then you might say, well, there might be a safer way to do that. Maybe you ought to tie off. Maybe you ought to be wearing a hard hat. But you start out from a humanistic perspective, which means you ask more questions. And safety professionals need to learn that because they're into, they're passionate. They're so passionate. They want to give directions, do this and do that and so on. And instead, as Charlie said, just say, hey, can I actively care for you? Yeah, it's critical. When I get the most inspired is when a guy walks up to me and says, King, you know what we like about you? I know that we seem to say you're a pain in the butt, but you know what we like is that you really do care. Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it for me. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep the babas and the blankets out there and the diapers if that's what it takes.
Man. Well, hey,
that's how my story started. It was me talking to my own guys because they couldn't believe. That's right. I was the guy who used to be the one who never followed a safety procedure. And I had to give them a reason why I really cared because they didn't believe me. And one day I just got mad and I said, sit down. And I told them a story about what happened to me and mostly what happened to my family. And that's when everything changed. And when I got finished telling the story, the last guy, there was 3 guys who weren't wearing their helmets, stood up, put their helmets on, and said, Charlie, you ought to tell everybody that story. That's how it started.
Wow. And I am so glad that you did, Charlie. This is Rick, and I know you guys have to go, but normally we try to see the contact information for if people wanted more. And I kind of think if any search engine, anyone just typed in Charlie Morecraft, you would get a hit right there to your website and your book, or they type in E. Scott Geller. That you're probably 2 of the easiest folks to find due to the amount of information and time and effort you've placed into this field. And so is that probably the simplest way our readers, our listeners could get in touch with you all?
For me, that's probably the easiest way.
Okay.
But I want to give an invitation to Scott. Scott, I know you're winding down, and I guess I'm also winding down. I'm going to be 72, and it's time for me to start winding down. But what I've started to do is I'm doing a webinar in a couple of days right from my house, and I invite you to also do webinars, and maybe you and I can get together and do webinars together, and maybe we can get them out, and maybe you guys would like to join in also.
Absolutely.
They're talking about media. Well, the webinars is that's where it's at today.
Well, we're doing a webinar. We're doing a webinar now, aren't we? This is like a webinar, is it not? I mean, this gets spread to somebody else and somebody else, and it's social media.
Yeah, it's the same thing, just without them looking at us, our ugly faces, Scott.
Let me add one thing. We started a new website. It's called activelycaringpeople.org. activelycaringpeople.org. And again, I invite Charlie to give me the information, and we'll link it up. John Drevinder is putting this website together for me. It includes our books. It includes some presentations.
Perfect. So Boy, hey, it's been great to talk to you all here. And I just wanted to say thank you. This has been Rick Gleason and Don King coming to you from the heartbeat of worker health and safety at the University of Washington, Region 10, OSHA Training Center. And thank you so much.
I was young and feisty, never did things by the book. Just let me get my toolbox and I'll take myself a look. I climbed up on the dozer and with my mechanic's pride said, you can keep it running, friend, while I poke around inside. Shake hands with danger, meet a guy you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety, now they call me Three-Finger Joe. Though I learned a lesson, I forgot it soon enough. The nicks and burns and scratches showed the young ones I was tough. Till another morning, I was grinding on some steel. My other hand got careless and fed my skin into the wheel. Shake hands with danger, step right up and say hello. Grinding wheels and metal are what made me Three-Finger Joe. I've seen mechanics burning and I've seen them take a fall just to save themselves a minute. I've seen them lose it all. I've watched them courting trouble, seen them take a chance and lose. They get careless for a moment, spend a lifetime with the blues. Shake hands with danger. Shake hands with danger. Shake hands with danger. Shake hands with danger. Shake hands with danger and some friends I used to know. Compared to them, I'm lucky to be just Three-Finger Joe.